Like and subscribe. We're getting started. They told us the surface was the only place where light dared to touch the earth, but they were wrong. Down here, miles beneath the crushing weight of the sapphire expanse, there is a light that doesn't burn, it hums. It is the song of the sunken citadel, a place erased from the maps of men 3,000 years ago. Yet it calls to me with the voice of a lover lost in a storm. I can feel the pressure against my hull, a constant reminder that I am an intruder in a world of silence, encroaching on the domain of gods who have long since forgotten how to show mercy to mortal curiosity. My name is Valerius, and I am not here for gold, nor for the fame that comes with dredging up the bones of dead kings. I am a senior archivist of the Iron Tower, and I seek the only thing that matters in this abyss, the Codex of Tides. Legend says that the first hydromancers didn't learn their craft from study, but from bargaining with the leviathans that sleep in these trenches. If the crumbling texts in the library are true, the Codex contains the true name of the ocean itself, a word so powerful that speaking it could drown a continent or raise a new one from the floor of the abyss. The descent has taken 3 days, or perhaps 3 years. Time dissolves in the dark when there is no sun to mark the hours. Outside the reinforced glass of my vessel, I see shapes moving in the periphery, shadows that are too large to be sharks and too fluid to be whales. They are the wardens, ancient constructs of coral and bone, animated by the lingering will of the citadel's sorcerer kings. They do not attack, not yet. They merely watch, circling with a patience that is terrifying to behold, waiting for a single crack in my resolve or a fracture in the glass that separates my fragile life from their watery, eternal domain. As the citadel finally comes into view, the sheer scale of it steals the breath from my lungs and freezes the blood in my veins. It is not built of stone, but grown from a single massive pearl, spiraling upward like a frozen tornado of iridescence. Towers bridge the gaps between deep-sea trenches, connected by walkways of solidified light that shimmer like oil on water. It is beautiful, yes, but it is a terrible beauty. I can see the empty windows staring back at me like the hollow sockets of a skull, and I know with a sinking dread in my gut that the silence here is not empty. It is holding its breath, waiting for me to knock. I dock the vessel on a crumbling landing pad, the ancient runes flickering to life as they sense the proximity of my magical signature. The airlock hisses, a sound like a dying snake, and for the first time I smell the air of the deep. It is stale, metallic, and cold, preserving the scent of a civilization that ended in fire and water. I step out, my boots clanking on the pearl floor, the sound echoing too loudly in the vast emptiness. I draw my staff, the crystal tip glowing with a nervous yellow light, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to reach for my ankles as I walk. The main hall is a cavern of echoes, lined with statues of beings that are half human, half serpent. Their eyes are gemstones that seem to track my movement, shimmering with a malice that has survived the erosion of centuries. I can hear the whisper of water flowing through the walls, the lifeblood of this dead city. It is here that the archivist said the trial would begin. Not a trial of combat, for blades are useless against the crushing weight of history, but a trial of will. To find the codex, I must prove that I am willing to drown part of my soul to make room for the ocean's secrets. I reach the altar of the deep, a slab of obsidian floating in a pool of liquid mercury. On it rests the book, bound in the scales of a dragon turtle, pulsing with a faint blue rhythm. But as I reach for it, the mercury begins to rise, forming a humanoid shape. It has no face, only a smooth, reflective surface that mirrors my own terrified expression. This is the mimicry of the deep. It takes your fear and gives it form. I must not fight it. To fight the ocean is to drown. I must accept it, flow with it, and become as formless as the water itself. I close my eyes and lower my staff, surrendering my defense. The silver figure hesitates, its liquid form rippling with confusion, for it expects resistance. It feeds on the struggle for survival. I recite the mantra of still waters, letting my mind become a flat, unmoving surface. The entity lunges, not to strike, but to merge, crashing over me like a tidal wave of cold memory. I feel the chill seep into my bones. I see the history of the city flash before my eyes in a chaotic torrent. The rise of the tides, the fall of the towers, the screaming silence of the end. When the vision clears, I am alone. The mercury has retreated into the pool, and the codex of tides lies open before me, its pages dry and inviting. But as I touch the parchment, I realize the truth that the Iron Tower never taught us. The book is not a weapon to control the sea. It is a contract. To take the knowledge, one must agree to become its keeper. I look back at my bathysphere, the vessel that could carry me home to the sun and the sky, and then I look at the throne that sits empty behind the altar. I understand now why the previous expedition never returned. They didn't die, they simply chose a different kind of life. I pick up the quill that rests beside the book, and the ink in the well is not black, but gold, the blood of the immortals. I write my name on the final page, not as a visitor, but as the new warden. My skin begins to shimmer, hardening into something like pearl, and the need to breathe air fades away, replaced by the cool, eternal comfort of the deep. I am Valerius no longer. I am the voice of the citadel. The bathysphere releases its ballast and begins to ascend, empty, carrying only my journal to the surface. Let them read it. Let them know that the ocean is not a beast to be tamed, but a god to be served. As the vessel disappears into the gloom above, I turn my gaze to the dark windows of the hall. The shadows outside are no longer monsters. They are my subjects. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the sunken citadel begins to sing, a low, resonant thrum that vibrates through the bedrock of the world. The bathysphere breached the surface 3 days later, bobbing like a cork in the violent swells of the northern sea. I was not there to see it, but I felt the disturbance in the water tension as clearly as a spider feels a fly on its web. The mages of the Iron Tower pried open the hatch, expecting a corpse or a king's ransom. Instead, they found only empty air and the leather-bound testimony of a man who no longer existed. They read my warnings, but they did not hear them. To the Council of Archmages, the Codex was not a burden to be feared, but a weapon to be seized. Greed is a peculiar gravity. It pulls men downward faster than any anchor. They declared me lost to madness, a victim of nitrogen narcosis, and ordered the deployment of the Dread Fleet. They sought to conquer the abyss with steel and arrogance. I felt their descent long before they saw the lights of the citadel. 12 iron-clad leviathans, churning the water with propellers of enchanted bronze. They brought the noise of the surface world with them, the grinding of gears, the thrum of engines, the chaotic heartbeat of conquest. It vibrated against the pearl walls of my sanctuary, an itch under the skin of the ocean that begged to be scratched. My subjects, the wardens, stirred from their slumber. The great serpents uncoiled from the spires, their gemstone eyes burning with a hunger that had not been fed in an age. They looked to me, the new heart of the citadel, waiting for the command. I sat upon the throne, my hand resting on the codex, and I felt a strange pity. The invaders were not warriors. They were children playing with fire in a house made of paper. The fleet opened fire. Torpedoes tipped with volatile alchemical fire streaked through the water, leaving trails of boiling bubbles. They struck the outer shields of the city, blooming into dull, muffled explosions. The shock waves rattled the dust from the ancient books, but the citadel did not break. It merely groaned, the sound of a sleeping god turning over in its bed. Enough. I opened the codex to the page of crushing depths. I did not shout. There is no need to shout when the water speaks for you. I whispered the word of pressure. Instantly, the ocean remembered its weight. The water around the iron ships ceased to be a fluid and became a vice, clamping down with the force of a collapsing star. The sound of implosion is unique. It is a sharp, metallic crunch, followed by the scream of escaping air. One by one, the iron hulls buckled, glass shattered, steel folded like wet parchment, and the fires of their ambition were snuffed out in a single cold second. There was no glory in their end, only the physics of the deep asserting its dominance. Silence returned to the trench, heavier than before. The wreckage of the Dread Fleet drifted down like autumn leaves, settling into the silt at the base of the towers. They are part of the collection now, monuments to the folly of those who think the map is the territory. The wardens returned to their coils, and the lights of the city dimmed back to a resting pulse. I am Valerius, the keeper of the sunken citadel. I am the wall between the surface and the secrets that would destroy it. Do not come looking for me. Do not send your ships, your heroes, or your prayers. The ocean has enough ghosts. It does not need yours. And if you listen closely to the tides at night, you will not hear the crash of waves. You will hear the turning of pages. Decades have bled into centuries, or perhaps only moments have passed. The ocean does not keep time in the way the sun-dwellers do. The wreckage of the dread fleet has long since been consumed by the coral, their iron bones now serving as nurseries for neon tetras and ghost crabs. Up above, I am told by the currents that I have become a bedtime story, the drowning king, a cautionary tale whispered to children to keep them away from the shoreline at dusk. They believe I am a monster who hoards the deep for spite, unaware that I am the only thing standing between their fragile wooden cities and the hunger that dwells beneath the bedrock. But peace is a lie told by stagnant water. Lately, the codex has begun to tremble in my hands, its pages hot to the touch, vibrating with a frequency that hurts the teeth. It is not warning me of intruders from the surface. The water above is calm and indifferent. No, this warning comes from the other direction. Beneath the foundations of the citadel, down where the pressure turns diamond to dust, something has heard the song of the city. We woke the ocean to defend ourselves, but in doing so, we roused the things that eat the waking world. I journeyed to the undercroft, the lowest level of the citadel, where the pearl roots anchor us to the abyssal crust. The water here is thick, tasting of sulfur and ancient rot. There is a rift here, a jagged scar in the world's skin that the original sorcerer kings sealed with wards of light and song. But the wards are flickering. I see movement in the pitch-black void of the rift, not the graceful swim of the wardens, but the jerky, spasm-like twitching of limbs that were never meant to exist in the logic of nature. The void kraken are scratching at the door. The first breach happened in silence. A limb the size of a redwood tree, covered in hooks and weeping sores, smashed through the pearl floor of the southern spire. It did not seek gold or magic, it sought biomass. I felt the death of the spire's inhabitants instantly, 100 minds snuffed out like candles in a hurricane. I rallied the wardens, my serpentine generals, but even they hesitated. The creatures rising from the rift are not made of flesh and blood. They are made of absence. They are the holes in reality where the ocean forgot to be. I swam into the fray, the codex strapped to my chest, my staff burning with the light of a miniature sun. I spoke the word of boiling, a spell that should have turned the water around the beasts into superheated steam. It struck the void kraken, and for a moment the water screamed. But these things drink energy. The heat did not burn them, it fed them. They grew larger, their hook limbs knitting together with fresh muscle, their eyeless faces turning toward me with a collective silent hunger. I realized then that I was fighting a fire with gasoline. I retreated to the throne room, barring the great doors behind me. The city outside is dying. I can hear the screams of the architecture, the grinding of pearl turning to sand. The iron tower warned that the codex demanded a price, but they thought the price was merely isolation. They were wrong. The price of holding the power of the ocean is that you must also hold back its nightmares. I have been a guardian of the gate, but I never checked to see if the lock was broken from the inside. There is only one spell left in the codex. It is written on the back cover in ink that looks like dried tears. It is the rite of abyssal binding. It does not destroy the enemy, it chains them to the caster. To save the citadel, to save the surface world from these horrors that would boil their oceans and eat their skies, I must become the jailer, I must bind the rift to my own soul. I will not be the king of the sunken city anymore. I will be its prisoner, holding the door shut with my own bones. I sit upon the throne one last time. I weave the spell. It feels like swallowing a mountain. The threads of magic shoot out from my chest, passing through the walls, through the water, finding the heart of the rift beasts. They shriek, a sound felt rather than heard, as they are dragged back into the dark. But they drag me with them. My vision darkens. The pearlescent skin hardens into immovable bedrock. The lights of the citadel flicker and die, leaving only the cold, crushing dark. I am the stone. I am the silence. I am the wall. Centuries pass again. The surface world has invented new machines, new wars, new gods. They send probes down to the anomaly on the ocean floor. They see a mountain of dead rock shaped like a city, and in the center, a statue of a man on a throne holding a book of stone. They do not know that inside the stone, I am still screaming. They do not know that the only reason their sun still rises is because I refuse to